I'm my own worst enemy. I got in my own way. My dick got too big, and that's why this happened?
No, just like most of us don't think that when we fuck up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm thinking this place is so unfair. I've got to escape the shame. I'm not going to, like, we all get bussed in and we all get bussed out. Like it's a fucking summer camp, right? And when we get bussed out.
Of course. So you're under the you were at the farm to be under the case officer part, and then they come out to you at the end and say, board didn't pass you.
Yep.
So
you go back, like it's the walk of shame, dude. It's a horrible feeling because everybody else there is passing. By the time you get to the end, the real riffraff get cut about halfway through. The people who really can't keep up get cut at what's called the first round of murder boards halfway through. So the second half, everybody's close, everybody's friends, everybody can do the tasks. It's just whether or not you meet the subjective desire of people wanting to work with you. And just like you said, like, I'm kind of a dick. People don't want to work with me. So I'm not surprised they got cut at the end in hindsight. But at the time, I thought I was pretty shit hot. So I get cut, and it's the walk of shame. I call Jihi, and I tell her what happened, and she's like, I can't believe that happened. In my group, in my classroom, only one other person got caught out of the, say, 25 of us that were there. And he was so devastated, he just walked into the woods and didn't come back. He took a bottle of scotch and a fat cigar and walked into the woods.
like at the farm.
At the farm. And the fucking security people had to go find him after he didn't show up for like the rest of that day or the next morning's check-in or anything. And he wasn't in his hotel room because we all live in like this mock hotel room. He just walked off the fucking campus and then was deemed like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Psychologically unfit.
Unfit for retention.
Yeah.
I don't think they use the word psychologically, but unfit for retention. So they took him out of the NCS and they were like, hey, would you rather do something else in the agency? Like, would you rather make fake passports or be a courier or something like that? And he was like, I'm fucking done with this. And he left. And he went and created an incredible life for himself as like he goes back and forth between Miami and Paris, putting together these badass nightclub parties. And
So he works for fucking Diddy. You're telling me this was a CIA operation?
I feel like he made a better choice than I did because he's been making a lot more money for a much longer time.
I wish we had that on camera. Wow. Yeah. Gio was a little shocked by that one. I do. All right. That's a rabbit hole. I feel like that was staged. I feel like he walked off into the woods. So they're like, oh, Jimmy's crazy. And they go in. They're like, son, you ready to work for the real agency now? And it's Diddy like, yeah, get over here, boy.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in 2007.
Oh, you up, boy.
That's
you
so funny.
Miami to Paris. Wow. Okay. So did it all, after they say no to you and you walk back to the hotel or whatever, was there, I don't know, it was tough to tell what was like 30,000 in the air, feet in the air, you writing it now, thinking about it versus what you were thinking in the moment. Were you immediately thinking those things to yourself? Like, I'm my own worst enemy. I got in my own way. My dick got too big, and that's why this happened?
No, just like most of us don't think that when we fuck up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking this place is so unfair. I've got to escape the shame. I'm not going to, like, we all get bussed in and we all get bussed out. Like it's a fucking summer camp, right? And when we get bussed out, there's no fucking way I'm going to sit on a bus with hundreds of other people who have all passed. And they're all going to be talking about their next assignment and their first assignment. And they're all going to be making plans to talk to their assignment officers and the office that they're going back to. And I don't have any of that shit because I'm going back into a bucket of people where the question is, do we even retain these people? That's where I'm going back to. I'm going back to check into an HR office under an HR officer who's going to be like, we're going to see if we can find a place for you to land, right? What the fuck? And in my mind, I'm like, I finished all of the training. I've been through the hardest thing you guys can throw at me. And it was just whether or not 7 fucking old men, all of which were men, 7 old men chose whether or not to keep me on as a case officer, certify me as a case officer, or not certify me as a case officer. And you're telling me that because one of them voted on the wrong side, that I'm not only not a case officer, but I'm not even useful, not even worth keeping? Like, it was a horrible feeling. So all I was like is I got to get the fuck away from this, and I'm on my own. I got to get away from this. I can't trust these people. If this is how the whole system works, I can't trust this place. I got to find a way to make my own life. But I'm in this serious relationship with Jihi, who's a fucking rock star. And when I come back, she understands the system. She understands the process. She understands how flawed it is. I take this long kind of minute to not go back to CIA. They're smart enough to grant us an extended leave after we finish the farm. They give us 60 days off. And they're like, you have 60 days off to kind of prepare yourself for your next assignment or to, get over your fucking hissy fit when you don't make it. And that's exactly what I did for my 60 days. And he was just there with me every step of the way, supporting me one way or the other. And I just, at the end of those 60 days, I was like, if I do anything else, if I go work for Booz Allen Hamilton, if I go be a barista, if I go do something else, I'm going away from Jihi. So I might as well go sit in that little pool at the HR office and see what shit job I get.
So we're going to explain how this happens in a little bit, but this ends up coming full circle. And you end up getting to do these things under a different title effectively. And you get to test the same kind of thing in the field in the scariest of ways and pass the tests with flying colors, which I think is cathartic for you. However, in the short term at this point, before any of that happens, I can only go off what you wrote here, but it would seem to me that minus, some regular human flaw, people on the board don't like you and relationships and stuff like that, this was a situation where they probably looked at you. They probably looked at all the other stuff you did at the farm, and you probably had very high grades. They looked at you physically and said, this dude can pass as every race known to man, including, like, if I pulled your eyeballs a little bit, Asian. Like, you could do literally anything. Like, you got a lot of the right emotions, the anxieties, all of it. Like, you're like almost an IVF test tube, like, genetic baby of what they would look for in a case officer. But there's one thing that's a problem, and that is you had a high probability of being a star on that wall. Because you
didn't follow orders.
You were a cowboy, and when you wanted to do something, you would do it and just go 1,000 miles an hour, and it cost you on the last drill. And they're like, well, that might cost them in the field. So in some ways, that could have been it. Do you think that could be an explanation?
I absolutely do, but it took me a long time to come to any explanation where CIA was acting in my best interest.
Right.
Just like every American out there, it's gonna take a minute before you stop to realize that CIA might be acting in your best interest, right? So that was the same thing that I had. The benefit that I had is that I had my wife, who was my girlfriend or fiance very shortly thereafter, was a true believer. She still is a true believer. True believer, right? Where she still looks at CIA and she still feels more like pity than she feels outrage, and she still looks at CIA and she sees more honor than she sees frustration, right? She is very much.
So she doesn't like JFK.
JFK? Oh, I get you now.
Oh, it took a minute.
Yeah. Took a minute. I don't know. My wife.
We're going to have to ask her.
Yeah, you're going to have to ask her. But my point with all that is just she planted that seed and she kind of kept trying to fertilize it for a long time. Like they did you a favor. Especially when we found out what my assignment would have been had I graduated. If I would have graduated and certified, they would have sent me immediately to a war zone, to your exact point. And then because they didn't, I ended up getting sent into Africa instead. Because as silly as this is, Africa is where you send all your trouble children. Because nobody cares about what happens in Africa. There's not a lot of money in Africa. No matter how much you screw up, you can't really make a big splash in most of Africa, right? They're not going to send me to the sweet places in Nigeria. They'll send me to some shithole place somewhere else. So I end up supporting, just like to your exact point, he's got all the makings, he's got all the physical attributes, he's got the scores, he understands the skills. He's just not a case officer. Well, once you're not among case officers, all of a sudden having all the same skills as a case officer without the title becomes a big advantage.
So they put you at SOO. So can you explain, like, because the way I think a lot of this had to get skipped over in the book because you had to get to the just the story. Correct. So let's get to some of the things that aren't in the book here. When you become an SOO, the way you described it, this was one of those buckets you talked about a few minutes ago. It's like you are all the mission support. You very often are working from Langley and you're working with all the case officers in the field, and you don't go into the field a lot. but you ended up coming up with some ideas that then led to them being like, oh yeah, put this dude in the field. And that doesn't happen often for
It doesn't
SOOs?
happen often, correct. So a SOO is called a Staff Operations Officer. So the official term for case officer is actually called Operations Officer, OO. Case officer is really just the more common term outside of CIA. Inside of CIA, you're called an ops officer, OO. A staff operations officer is essentially the staff support to operations officers. You're supposed to know everything that they know, understand their needs, and then essentially look around corners to make sure they get what they need before they ask for it. So you're getting them money before they ask for it. You're getting them alias stocks before they ask for it. You're anticipating all of their needs because you know what they're going to need, but you're not a direct competitor career-wise because you're not out there doing the job.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.